In my last boulder breakdown video, you got a glimpse into how I project boulders, linked on screen or in the description. I got a pretty good response which encouraged me to do another, and I figured this V9 I was working on would be a good problem just for that. It actually felt possible, and if I sent it, it would be the first of that grade. So let's see the moves, and then I will break it all down. So, my first V9. I debated including the grade. Grades are more of a suggestion, but this felt like a bit of a milestone. Although this was probably one of the lower hanging fruits of that grade, I still had to work at it, so hang tight and I'll show you the challenges and how I worked through them. If you saw my last video, you know what I'm about to do. For those of you that haven't, hang tight because you are about to see how little sleep I actually get. Let's go back to the beginning of this climb to show you what this boulder actually looks like. Although I think I got some pretty good angles in the video, I still think a little 3D will help illuminate some of those details. So let's talk about the start position. You start out on these two handholds. The handhold to the left is pretty comfortable, and although it isn't a jug per se, when you use it with the other handhold, it feels like one. The one for the right hand is pretty sharp and in-cut and allows you to pull a lot of tension between the two holds. Then you get the right heel up around the corner, using the angle of the volume to lock it in place. Just slightly beside the heel, on the flat kick plate of the wall, you smear your left foot to complete the controlled start position. From here, you throw your left hand up to this in-cut crimp. It's probably the most positive hold other than the finish, but it is small and sharp. Next, you bump your right hand up to this extremely minimal pinch. I will talk about this hold later on in the video. From this position, you cross through your body to the side pull. Still pulling really hard with your heel, you unwind your right arm and throw for this hold around the corner. Here you can see the angle of the wall and how overhanging it really is. This is when you release your heel and float your left foot across your body onto this foothold. Flagging your right leg further around the corner, you toss up to the sloping, but good, flat edge. From this point you have a few options, but essentially you have to bring your right hand around the corner and up to this awkward and minimal crimp without barn dooring. What I ended up doing here was using this right hand pinch from earlier as a foot, and then switching my feet and moving out to this teeny foot chip with my left foot. From this position, you start to pull with your left toe, locking off with your right arm, and you reach for the finish. Then you have to commit and toss your left hand into this jug, which feels amazing when you hit it. Unfortunately, I didn't start filming my attempts until I figured out the start, because before that I thought I'd never get out of it, but I will walk you through what I don't have footage of just to explain the process. I immediately saw and used the heel hook at the start. The heel hook feels better and allows you to put more into it the further you smear away from the volume with the opposing foot. But from this position, your weight is moving away from your right and dumping into the left side of your body, which makes hitting the first move, this left crimp, almost impossible, or at the very least, super painful if you were successful. So what I figured out was that if I smear closer to the plumb line of my body, the more balanced my weight was and allowed me to move up and left without falling away from the wall, like we see here. Unfortunately, this meant that I had to rely less on counterbalance and more on engaging the heel and actively pulling with it. On top of that, the most comfortable spot for my foot to smear is where the pad is, so I had to focus on smearing just above where I wanted it. This resulted in a lot of body tension and a bit of an awkward smear, and when it failed, the whole deck of cards fell. I always like the awkward moves that I might fall and bail on being close to the mats, so I appreciate that, and thanks to the setters.
I died.
Once I figured out the right position and engaged all the right parts at the same time, I was able to pretty easily control the first crimp, even though it was still a bit of a toss for it. Then the next move was controlling this terrible pinch, which I hinted at earlier. Honestly, I don't think I've used this hold on any problems before. Alright, how about we use a few more hours that should be dedicated to sleeping to show you what this hold looks like in 3D, because, why not? It's super minimal, and controlling a pinch directly in front of my body at that angle was super hard, especially when having to release that left hand and cross it again, right in front of my chest. At this point, I was also typically moving my left foot smear slightly to get more out of the holds. I also fell a bunch of times doing the sequence, but don't have video of that either. From this hand cross, you have to unwind and throw your hand to the next hold, but that move is awkward and it takes a lot out of you. I found that I could use the wall as an intermediate compression hold, but in reality, if you aren't too tired for the bigger moves, it is more efficient to just pull hard with your heel hook and use momentum to hit the hold directly. When you hit that hold and compress, you release your heel and naturally fling out of the overhang. I found that I could use this natural momentum to carry my left foot pretty seamlessly to the foothold. From here, the challenge actually was flagging around the corner without dabbing and then making this dead point. When you hit it perfect, it feels good, but your body has to be under the overhang and your feet can't slip. And here you can see that hold from above. You can see it's on an angle and slopes away just a little bit, but when you hit it and get your body perfectly under it, it feels really good. So good that I decided to repeat it over and over again to make sure I had the right angles on camera. So then the challenge is trying to get your right hand around the corner to this crimp. The crimp is pretty minimal, and on that 45-ish degree angle, it's kind of like a side pull. And although I managed to do it without getting my feet over first, you have to fight this barn door. And I did manage to make it through that section, controlling the barn door, but when your hand popped off that crimp, it hurt and you went flying. Again, I don't have footage of that. So what I decided to do was to get my feet on that terrible pinch I showed you earlier and work my way into a foot switch. All without pulling my butt and my hips out of the wall and exploding off of that hold. Then from there, I could point my toe and start pulling in and locking off hard with my right shoulder, again on that crimp, and then hoping that my hand doesn't pop as I reach for the final hold, which I'm not going to show you because I might as well show you the full send from the beginning. So here it is, unedited, from two angles at the same time. And I decided I should probably repeat the problem again from a wider angle so you could clearly see all the moves. So there it is, my first V9. Maybe it's soft, I don't know. But it was fun, it was challenging, and it felt like I finally started to break through this plateau I've been feeling for, I'd say, the past year. So if you learned something or found this remotely enjoyable, please consider subscribing and liking this video. It means a lot, and it means I'll be encouraged to do more of these and get even less sleep in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy.